Hello and welcome to another episode of Autism Family Life, bringing you all things autism, family, and life in 30 minutes or less. In this week's episode, we are going to continue on with that kind of like life and family aspect of the Autism Family Life podcast, and we are going to talk about reclaiming yourself as a stay at home mom. And again, dads, I don't mean to leave you out, but this episode is very specific to the moms. So, before we dive into that, I would like to remind you to please subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever it is that you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel on YouTube. And yes, if you are watching this episode on YouTube, you will notice that just like the past couple of episodes, my clothes are still the same. Reason being, I batch record these when I have the time because, I have all the free time in the world as a stay at home mom. So, this week's episode, as I mentioned in the beginning, is about reclaiming yourself as a stay at home mom. And maybe it isn't even so much reclaiming yourself as a stay at home mom, but reclaiming yourself as a woman. Because before you were a stay at home mom, before you were a work at home mom, before you were a working mom, before you were a mom, you were a woman, right? We all know that. Um, so this is for that mom who is struggling to find her self-worth. And I will tell you this right off the bat. It took me quite some time to find my own self-worth, and I struggled with my own self-esteem for a good 20 plus years, right from the time that I was around 14, 15, those wonderful teenage years where everything is just so dark and twisty. That was me. And my self esteem was crap, even though I put on a good show. My self esteem was just crap. And it took me well into my early 30s to finally come to terms with myself that this is who I am. And if people can't accept that, bye. So this week's episode ties into that. It's both the self-worth thing and it's a self-esteem thing. So I want to ask you to think about something really quick, and that is, how do you introduce yourself to people? If you're a mom, then more than likely you're going to say that you're going to tell them your name, and then you're going to tell them that you're someone's mom. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. That's perfectly fine. Or, maybe if someone says to you, like, who are you? Ask yourself, who are you? What defines you? What are your passions, your hopes, and your dreams? What really defines you? And again, for most of us, moms in particular, we're going to say that motherhood is one of those things that defines us, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I want you to be proud. I'm proud to be a mom. I love being a mom. Being a mom, as I've said in some previous episodes, is one of the most rewarding things I have ever done. Having kids and raising these little humans, for as crazy as they drive me sometimes. And let me tell you, my youngest drives me up the wall. I'm sure I drive her crazy as well. And part of it's because I was used to the parenting the autistic child. I was used to parenting my oldest, who's a NICU baby. So I went through all that. The high need, the special needs, as they say, and that, okay, piece of cake. But then this other one comes along, and she's just this little spitfire that challenges me at every move and makes me really think about my own capabilities as a parent. A whole nother episode. Because this week's episode, as I just said, is about reclaiming yourself as a mom and reclaiming that sense of self-worth and just kind of reclaiming all of that. There's a lot of reclaiming in this episode. Okay? So just stick with me. In the past, I have defined myself with the following attributes: that I'm a mom, I am a stay at home mom, I'm a work at home mom, I'm a homeschool mom, I am a mom of girls, I am a mom of children with special needs. But is that really who I am? Sure, that's part of who I am, but is that all I am? No. But my thing is that my self-confidence and my self-image were tied completely to my identity as a mom. So I was starting to doubt my self-confidence and my value in life, because if I was failing as a mom, which let me tell you, sometimes I really felt like I was failing as a mom, then it compounded onto, okay, I must be failing at everything, because if I can't even do this mom gig correctly, I can't. What else am I going to do correctly? Is anything else going to ever succeed? And it got to me. Like, it really, really got to me. So this was compounded by that whole the supermom mentality. And as I said, in a couple previous episodes, I'm a recovering perfectionist. So that really did a number on my self-esteem as well. Um, and I do mean like really did a number, because it sucked. So it took me that, knowing that I was not, my sense of self worth and my sense of self esteem and my sense of value was not tied to me as a mom. It was tied to myself as a woman. And I needed to reclaim all of that. And in order to, it was like kind of like building from the ground up. So, how so that's what I had to do. I lost my sense of self and I lost my sense of identity in my role as a mom. And it's so easy to do because there's so much for us to do as moms. And with being a mom of an autistic child or a mom of any special needs child, we get into that mindset of, there's just so many things that we need to do, like the IEP planning and then the homemaking. And then I'm a crappy homemaker, but like the IEP planning and then the future planning. And then, oh my God, what are we going to do with our kids over the summer when there's breaks between the school year and the extended school year? Or holy crap, they got rid of the extended school year. Or geez, I need to get back to my therapist. There's just a lot going on. And we start to really kind of just lose ourselves in this role because there is so much going on. And for a lot of us, we are both primary parent and primary caregiver. So that means we just have a lot going on. And, that's not even including other things that we might be taking on for ourselves. So, in order to reclaim our identities and reclaim ourselves, we need to get back to our true identity, and we need to get back to our restoring our self confidence and defining our self worth, right? So, self confidence is how you relate to the world, and self worth is how you relate to yourselves. Um, these two things are very interlinked, and one, they do directly affect each other, but they also bring up very different gifts and very different skills. So, self confidence gives us the ability to make things happen in the world. It helps us set goals and achieve the results. And when our self confidence is high, we attract people through our ability to get things done and be out there. So, this is where our good conversation skills come in, and our self worth helps us value people for who they are rather than what they do. So, when your own sense of self worth is crap, you aren't going to value the work that you do, even if other people do recognize it. So, this is what helps us build up those friendships and the relationships. And when our self worth is high, we attract people through our ability to just be there for them and to be with them. And we see this reflected in the way that we interact with others because we are there for others. But then when we don't have this high sense of self worth within our own selves, we aren't there for ourselves? And that's just not healthy. Obviously, we can look at this and say, well, duh, it's not healthy. But um, it happens, I think, far too often than we're willing to admit. So when your self-worth is low, you might tell yourself, like, if they only knew what you were really like. Or if your self-confidence is low, well, you know how that feels. You just don't feel like you're going to do anything, like you're good at anything, like you're always failing at things. And it sucks, you know? So, first, you want to work on building up your self confidence and building up your self esteem. So, what does that look like? When you are building up your self confidence, you want to look at things like your self discipline. And if you have a time management plan, do you procrastinate? I know I procrastinate, but which is okay. But you need to be able to take things in chunks. So those everyday housekeeping things, like I've said before, I'm not a great homemaker. It's not my favorite thing in the world. But the everyday things like the housework, meal prep, laundry, raising kids, cleaning, and all that other good stuff, we need to be able to still get a hold of all of that. And even if we aren't great with that, maybe that's something that we just need to acknowledge to ourselves that, okay, I'm not the best at this, but I'm doing the best I can, right? Because if we just keep falling back into that trap of, oh my God, I'm a terrible housekeeper or I'm a terrible homemaker, it's just going to keep plummeting our sense of self worth and our sense of self confidence back. So I've come to terms that yes, I admire Joanna Gaines. I love Joanna Gaines. Or that I would love to be able to cook a meal, maybe like, a Ree Drummond, but I'm not them. I'm just simply not them. I don't have their money. I don't have the team that they have behind them. I don't have the exact skill sets that they do. I can be inspired by them, but I'm not them. And that's fine. I am me, and I love me. Period. So these are those essential other things really for building up your self-confidence, which once you build up your self-confidence, you then need to work on your sense of self-worth. So first things first is to be the best that you can and stop berating yourself and stop judging yourself. Okay? The second thing is to be a person who is true to their word. Don't compromise. The third thing is to not be afraid to fail. Failure is not the end of the world. Failure is just the chance for a new beginning, right? Fourth is to get over your mom guilt. Start with a journey of forgiveness and begin by forgiving yourself. Remember what we talked about, that granting yourself grace? That's where this comes into. So it is okay to acknowledge that, yes, being a mom is stressful. It is okay to recognize that you need help, and it is okay to take time for yourself. You are not being selfish by taking time for yourself. Another thing that you can do to boost your self confidence is with mindfulness. And your mindfulness, if you're in a bad state of mind, will probably look something like, I'm not a good mom. I'm a bad mom. I'm not a good cook. I'm a terrible homemaker. I yell too much. These are all things that have run through my own head, which is why I say them to you now. And you might even say to yourself, you're stupid. This is so stupid. I can't handle this. I'm not smart enough to do these things. And that is that negative self talk, that negative little nagging voice in the back of your head that says you can't. You need to tell that voice to shut up because, yes, you can. And yes, you will. Okay, so sometimes you might still fall into those bad habits, but that's okay. You're only a human being, and those bad things are going to happen. You need to let them happen and then grant yourself the grace, forgive yourself, and move on. Period. Okay? That's how you work on your self confidence. So, when you start working on your self confidence and you start restoring your self confidence, then you can start restoring your sense of self worth because you value yourself and you see yourself as this awesome and amazing woman that you really are. So once you have that piece in play and that piece is set, the self-worth is going to come back and then your self-esteem is going to skyrocket. But until you work on your self-confidence and believing in yourself and granting yourself the grace to make mistakes and to screw up, you aren't going to move forward. And honey, trust me, you want to move forward. And I say this to you with all the love in the world. Okay? This is not meant to be a judgmental or harsh thing. I am a mom, and it is one of my favorite things. But at the end of the day, being a mom does not define who I am. I am Corey, and Corey is more than a mom. Corey is evolving daily. And I will talk to you next week. Have a great day.